Hello, and welcome to Uncommon Conversations on Citizen Television. We are reaching you from our studios in Enugu. Of course, Enugu is the capital of Southeast Nigeria. Since August the 1st, many Nigerians, a cross-section of Nigerians, took to the streets in protest of what they labeled hunger protest. Somebody has called it End Bad Governance protest. The protest which began like a simple, peaceful protest had snowballed into violence in some parts of Nigeria, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria. The southern part of Nigeria, however, it remained largely peaceful. But a strange element was added in the northern part of Nigeria, which today is a cause of concern for many Nigerians. And what was that? The introduction of the Russian flag. Many Nigerians have spoken against it. In particular, Professor Kinterenwa and the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, had said that the action was treasonable. Some say, look, during protest, you can wave any flag, any leaf, anything. But the introduction of a foreign flag into a country, largely by some protesters, has raised some eyebrows. And so this evening, joining me in the studio to discuss this is no other person than Maxwell Ngene, PhD. Maxwell is a senior lecturer in the Department of Mass Communication in Enugu State University of Science and Technology. But much more than that, he's a public affairs analyst and commentator. Dr. Ngene, good evening and welcome to Uncommon Conversations.
Thank you very much for inviting me to Uncommon Conversations.
Okay, you're not a stranger to Nigeria. You were born, bred, and you live in Nigeria. You witnessed protests in the past. I'm sure even as a comrade, you may have joined in one.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure. I know those days in the labor market,
Yes.
when you were
In Ratau.
that you must have joined or have led.
Yes.
Protest is a legitimate weapon in a democratic setting.
Yes.
The right to protest, for me, is the same thing as the right to vote.
Yes.
You vote because you want to elect leaders. But when you elect leaders and you feel they're not doing what you expect them to do, the other weapon you have is to protest.
Yes.
You've watched what has been going on in Nigeria since August the 1st. What's your take generally on the protest? Remembering that there was almost a 1-month notice, and then, curiously, the introduction of the Russian flag.
Well, thank you very, very much. When we talk about the current situation in our country, it elicits mixed feelings, because some people have been asking why protest? Is protest a constitutional right? But I must say here and now that protests are a healthy component of every democracy. When we talk about democracy, we are talking about government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not like a military government that is characterized by totalitarianism, autocratic, behaviors. So protesters have the freedom to protest. The only thing is that there must be a thin divide, because when citizens protest against bad governance, against poverty, against hunger, they are trying
Injustice.
against injustice, against marginalization, against exclusion, against oppression. One can go on and on. They are merely trying to drive positive change, to trigger change in the behavior, change in the way policies are formulated, trying to bring change in terms of reforms. You will agree with me that the current government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not really right. talking about his entry point during his swearing-in ceremony, where he quickly removed fuel subsidy without giving a proper thought, to it. Because when you want to change something as huge as that, you need to think it through and through to know what policies, what things you have to do to cushion the harsh effects of such a policy. Because everything in Nigeria, economic, social, is driven by, fuel, by oil, so it's wrong. So I must say that what had become a very worrisome thing in all these things is the hoisting of the Russian flag. Because it's it's something new. It's not a new normal. It's something new, something strange, something that has made people who are currently holding power to begin to say that some people are doing this because they want to take power, and that there may have been some measure of external influence. And it's very worrisome because it threatens national security. National security, like is that process that has to do with the protection of the values, the interests of a nation, whether it's a military interest, whether it's a political interest, their institutions. So now, well, happily, we've heard the Russian embassy in Nigeria dissociating itself from those hoisting the flag, saying that they know nothing about it. We do not know how this came about, but it has now led to a situation where even the Nigerian military, the current government, is saying that that's a treasonable felony. It's a treasonable act that is punishable, and such a punishment is going to be very, very harsh. There are ways of going through protests. Anybody who says that protests are unhealthy is not being honest to himself or herself. We have a right to protest. My insight as a person is that since I was born, I've never seen the kind of hardship Nigerians are facing now. But that does not mean that we should be hoisting the flag of Russia or indeed the flag of any other country. Because to start with, this hoisting of flag has led some scholars to begin to question whether it is whether the current protest is a call for genuine change, or is it just a call for chaos? You understand? Because no right-thinking government, no government worth the name, can stand idly, like President Tinubu said in his broadcast, nationwide broadcast, and watch people destroy, take lives. Life is a primary value. Nobody has a right to take the life of the other, except if it is the legitimate court of law that made such pronouncement. So it is a worrisome situation. But luckily, from what we've seen today, Tuesday, and Wednesday, yesterday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, what we've seen is a kind of easing of the protest in some parts of the country. When the president was talking last time, the president said that there were protests in some states. That is not really true. There were protests in most states in Nigeria.
Okay, Dr. Maxwell. It's often been said, rightly or wrongly, that protests or a protest is the voice of the voiceless. The truth is, at the risk of not being mathematically accurate,
yes,
over 80% of Nigerians feel that something unusual is happening in Nigeria. The level of hunger, deprivation, inability to meet certain basic demands, we've never seen it in Nigeria, even in the time of
that was the point I was
even
making.
the point of austerity measure.
Shagari era.
So a lot of people are disillusioned, disenchanted, but only these few have come out to speak for the rest of the people. And so that's why they say protest is the voice of the voiceless. But there's something that you just said that I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Akite Renwa Prof said that people who are carrying those flags would appear to be Nigerians, people from Niger. And that is a very strong
Allegation or accusation.
But most people who saw them believed they were infiltrations. And the military junta in Niger, orchestrated or sponsored or managed or influenced by the Russians. They were interested. So people saw it as a signal.
That there could be an extension of
What do you think?
Well, that could be true. I am not a military person. I'm not a security expert, but common sense tells me that there could be truth in it, given also the fact that when Buhari was president of Nigeria, he was extending lajis and goodwill to the Nigerians, because we were told that part of him comes from Niger, as it were, because he said that if we disturb him so much, he will leave Nigeria and go to Niger. I still remember that vividly.
Okay.
However, it is really wrong. I do not know why those who were hoisting Russian flag were doing it, because we know about other superpowers. It's curious enough that it wasn't even the Chinese flag that was being hoisted, nor that of the Americans or the British that colonized us. I don't know where the Russian thing is coming from, but it means that the job of the security agents in Nigeria have been cut out for them. They need to do their work properly through intelligence to find out. It is not really right. It affects our image as a nation. It affects our reputation as a nation. It also is damning for the current government that was promising a new dawn, a new era, because this government was the one that gave birth to the last 8 years of Buhari, which now that Buhari had exited power, Nigerians have described it as the worst government they've seen. But even as it were now, the people are beginning to make a comparison between the current government and the former one, saying that this one appeared to be worse than that of Buhari. So it's neither here nor there. But the point is that
I think it's too early to compare. One,
it's not too early to compare, given the harsh reality on the ground.
Okay. Understand it this way. Sometimes, like in a marriage, some people start badly
and end well.
Some start well and end badly. Perhaps, assuming without conceding, that the government is laying a solid foundation for a future growth and development. At the beginning, just like somebody who has cancer, and you have to go through chemo. Chemo is painful. Go through it for months for you to have a better life. I'm not holding brief. I'm just imagining. Okay?
You're doing you're hazarding a guess.
Yes.
An educated guess.
Yes. But let me take you to... Many people thought, they had believed, they were expecting Mr. President to actually prevent that protest. Because these guys gave notice, judicial notice.
Yes.
And
ahead of time.
Ahead of time. And the managers of the president's media and government said, no, these guys are. And then the day came. It took him about 2-3 days to make a broadcast. They just were eager to listen to him. I did, you did. Many watched him. And since that broadcast, eminent Nigerians have come to say, even his close pal, Wole Soyinka, also said, you didn't get it. But I watched Adams Oshimole on one channel today talking about that the president did well in that broadcast.
Well, you...
As an analyst, what are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. You earlier said that it took 2-3 days or more before the president decided to communicate with Nigerians regarding his thoughts about the protests and the intentions of his government to meet with the expectations of the people. I don't know if I should say that President Tinubu is not having the right media managers, or that something is wrong. Because some analysts are also of the opinion that the organizers of the protest, for them to have given a time frame, that was futuristic, that it was selling out their own strategy and making it possible for the protest not to be successful and effective. But the reverse was the case. It doesn't really matter how anybody sees it. The truth is that this protest is largely successful. It's largely successful in the sense that a protest is not supposed to tear apart the country. A protest is supposed to be a legitimate way of expressing frustrations, expressing angst, anger regarding the way Nigerians feel, regarding the state of the nation, our poor economic situation, the state of the nation vis-a-vis insecurity, insurgency, kidnapping for ransom, so many things, inability of average Nigerians to provide basic necessities of life for their kids, a situation where a lot of children are no longer in school, and more importantly, had been the issue of not being honest with the people. Every government that wants to be successful must be seen as a government that believes in openness, in transparency and accountability. That seems to be lacking in our country, not just with Tinubu's government. Successive governments in Nigeria, the way they've been doing things have been shrouded in secrecy, and that has been a very legitimate issue that doesn't resonate well with Nigerians. For instance, Nigerians are at crossroads regarding how a country that is the 6th largest producer of oil, how on earth such a country will not be able to have refineries that are functional. Even at that, Nigerians are also shocked that a country as huge as Nigeria is unable to have refineries that are functional, whereas a Dangote has been able to build a state-of-the-art refinery. Even at that, we are also dumbfounded and we are also shocked by the conversations we are hearing, whether it's half-truth, whether it's rumor, regarding the way some stakeholders in the oil industry have continued to make that refinery not to function optimally or not to even kickstart, because we believe that with a functional refinery in our country, or functional refineries, that we will be better than we are. Because it is sad that we will bring our oil and take it out to another country and refine it and buy our oil. And since 1999, when we started this new democracy that had gone uninhibited, that we are unable. Obasanjo had come and gone. Yar'Adua had come and gone. And there was also Goodluck Jonathan. And there was Buhari. None of them have succeeded in holding the dragon on his scrotum. So this is not really right. So Nigerians think that there's been this conspiracy where a few elites had continued to hold Nigeria into his, at the jugular and trying to squeeze Nigeria to death, because there's no reason, Uche, where you can expect an outsider to sweep your house better than you do. There's no reason why we cannot even copy and say, how did Venezuela do this? How did other
even Brazil.
countries, even Brazil, how were they able to surmount this problem?
But that's what I was bringing back to reality.
So that is true.
Yes, we're on the president's speech.
Yes.
Many Nigerians said it did not meet their aspirations.
Yeah, it didn't meet my own aspirations too.
In what ways?
Okay, this morning I also listened to Adams Oshimole. It's like Adams Oshimole and President Tinubu have made up, because we have been keen observers of the political space, and we know how he has been talking in the recent past regarding the policies of the current president. For him this morning to have appeared on air, maybe they have gone to do first mending, and they now know that public opinion is against the APC, so to say. Because you see, the president, we were expecting them. The intro of the president, the first few lines was a situation where the president was talking about, opposition, trying to use protest to take power, which is not really true. The truth is that Nigerians, in their large numbers, are angry because they are no longer feeding well. A lot of Nigerians are malnourished. A lot of Nigerians are unable to pay house rent. A lot of Nigerians that live in metropolis or in urban areas are beginning to go to the hinterland because they are unable to pay for security, to pay for their power bills, to pay for food more importantly, check what a bag of rice is. Look at, even at our level as academic doctors, when we are driving our cars now, we are looking at the dashboard to know when the fuel has is finished. You know, we are no longer sure.
Maxwell, we'll just take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Don't go away.
We should also ask, do we have productive civil servants who go to work, who earn the salary, even the little they are being paid? The government needs to look at, if we must fight corruption, and very seriously, apart from looking at the wages being paid to them, which is meager, which if you look at the per capita income of Nigeria, is nothing to write home about, which is meager. And everybody does whatever he or she wants to do in order to keep body and souls together. That has created a leeway for corruption. Just like
You're still watching Uncommon Conversations on Signature Television, and my guest is still Maxwell Ngene, PhD. Doc, before we went on a short break, I asked you, many Nigerians are of the opinion that the president's speech fell short of, but it did not even
Below expectation.
It did not even meet an iota
Minimal standards.
of the protesters' demand. So you are speaking to, you can continue to speak to that.
Well, you see, for somebody like Wole Soyinka, that some people had described as one who is driven by ethnic cleavages, to have come out, because he's a well-respected scholar, to say that, hey, this is not really what we expected. And a lot of people, including myself, it means that something was wrong. I had expected the president to be more reconciliatory, you know, more honest in the way he was going.
Even more specific to
more
issues.
specific to issues. I had expected him to address the issue of bigotry. I've expected him to address the issue of fuel subsidy. I had expected him to.
No, he did address that.
He didn't address it.
He said that they're not removing it. That's an address.
Well.
That doesn't meet your expectation.
When you are addressing, when there's a crisis, you are an expert in conflict resolution. You know that when there's a crisis, there's a need for dialogue, there's a need for negotiation, there's also a need for compromise.
He called for dialogue.
He called for dialogue. He's saying that's why some people are of the opinion that his speech was more of a manipulative thing, that there are these elements of deception in it. You know, as a communication expert, we expect him to come with a, you know, better communication. Because when some message sent is not message received, communication has not taken place.
Yeah, that's why a group of analysts from the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, they took a swipe on the president and they said his media managers failed.
I don't want to say it. If I say it, it will mean that I'm saying that he should engage both of us, who are media experts.
No, that's not the issue. The issue is it speaks to power.
And that's correct.
The media managers failed.
Yes. Because the speech is not what we had expected. Because if you're making a speech for the president, you must think about the target audience description. Who are this message meant for? What is the expectation of the people? if you tell us such a message predictably around those demands of the people, then you've done justice to it. But when you begin to talk about opposition, because part of the problem had been that Tinubu, when he was in opposition, was somebody who believed in the power of protest. We remember vividly how they used protest to shake the former President Goodluck Jonathan,
Yes.
and finally take him out of power. So now, when we look back and do a content analysis, so to say, regarding President Goodluck Jonathan's policies and how he took up his first year in office in comparison with that of Tinubu, we will come to the conclusion that Tinubu is playing on an infantile turf. I'm so sorry to talk that way
Some people said that if you look at the speech, they say they can use one word
to describe it.
or a phrase, mere platitudes.
That's very correct. Let's not talk about it again.
Mere platitudes. Okay. The protest brought something unusual in Nigeria: the North-South divide. Clearly,
Yes.
the North, the northern governors were complacent. They were not bothered. They didn't address the issue before, and when they came, it overwhelmed them. The southern governors, without even an agreement, had a way of controlling. Someone who spoke to his people the day before. In Bayelsa, the Bayelsa governor said, protest, go to work, and talk to the people.
Be civil.
You saw police DPOs in the south talking to the people.
You saw the governor of River State.
Addressing the protesters. Those were absent in the north. Does that tell you anything?
It does. It does. That is the problem. Nigeria and Nigerians must realize that we have no other country. That the issue of people looking at Nigeria from religion, prison, from ethnic prison, from geographical zone, does not really help Nigeria as a country. The truth is that there's this divide, because for far too long, particularly since the end of the Civil War, the Southeasterners, where the Igbos are predominantly domiciled, they have been crying regarding the clear marginalization in terms of not having the number of states that you can find in other geopolitical zones, the politics of exclusion, the politics of treating them as if they are leprous persons, the politics of not looking properly their way in terms of looking for beautiful heads that can help in driving development in our country, which of course you know is the main reason why young Nigerians from Igbo extraction from the Southeast have been talking about separatist agitation, that they need to go, there's a need for referendum, which gave rise to the birth of IPOB and so on. And this is not really right. Because you see, some people are also asking, is it because the current president of Nigeria is not from the north? Is that the reason why the northern governors and northern elites and northern leadership didn't see the present threat?
Did you listen
as
to
anything?
the Bauchi governor?
No, I didn't.
He said that President Tinubu goofed, that he did not consult the governors. When has it become fashionable for the president, before he makes a speech, to consult governors?
Well, I don't know if you can say when has it become fashionable. But of course, you know that for scholastic persons, maybe they could have done it differently. Maybe they normally would. There's nothing wrong in asking somebody with superior ideas and knowledge to help you with tips.
You know the governor is not of APC, he's a PDP governor.
Of course.
So you see the motive.
Yeah, of course you understand. Yes, I understand.
Then that too.
Yes, I understand now. Because they are from different... But it's difficult to even distinguish between the PDP and the APC. It's difficult, but that is a story for another day. The point is that there's this divide where people of Nigeria, even people who belong to the same geopolitical zone, look at themselves from clannish sentiments, from those narrow prisms of Ebekisi. Where are you from? You know, are you from which state? When you say you're from a different state, they begin to look at you as if you're distant from them. The truth is that we have no other country. There's unity in diversity. That unity in diversity has not been properly harnessed. We've not been able to leverage on that to bring a situation where Nigerians will be seen as human beings rather than objects. And that is the reason why you can see what is happening in the north. There are some people who are in the social media saying, Dr. Maxwell, can this happen in the east? Can this happen in the east? Because when there are protests, the soldiers you're seeing on the streets are hardly Igbos. They are northerners, people who, on mere provocation,
Can maim.
or take life.
Okay, let me take you to an unspoken aspect of this protest. When you manage conflict and the dramatic personnel appear before you, sometimes you look beyond them and look for the shadow parties. The shadow parties.
The shadow parties, are you now talking about stakeholders?
People behind the scene fueling the conflict.
Okay.
So many people are thinking that there are some shadow parties, that the real people who you see talking about this protest.
May not really be
Yes.
the people who are engineering it.
Yes. What do you think?
That could be true. That could be true. You know, most times, there was a big man, I don't want to call his name now. He told me in a very close conversation in the past that the EndSARS was a failure. I said, why? He said it was a failure now.
That was what we expected.
That was what we expected. I said to him, well, because people like you who have deep pockets didn't believe in the protest, didn't use your resources to fund or support the protesters, you know, through the media. You know, in Nigeria, people pay for the media.
Yeah.
You know, commercialization of news.
What was his response?
His response is that, well, I don't know how he felt, but he was feeling strongly about his position. But I was very strong about my own position as a communication expert because I know exactly what public opinion was saying at the time. So that is exactly why some people could say it is their turn to be this and that. They don't understand that in a democracy, public opinion is the king. What is the thinking of the people? What is the perception of the people? What is their view regarding a particular issue that is vexed, that is problematic? That is the problem. The problem in Nigeria is the problem of hunger, the problem of poverty, the problem of bad governance. You are talking. Do you know that I'm in certain social media platforms where professors and academic doctors like us are members, and they were talking about the high level of bigotry in this government. They stopped short of calling the president a bigot himself, because you can see that some people who were displaying bigotry, rather than getting punished by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he rewarded them with juicy positions in government. They are presently occupying exalted positions, and that is not really right. For a country that is multi-ethnic, that is multi-religious, that is multicultural, there's no need for that kind of thing, because it does send a wrong signal. It sends the signal that the country is not united. And that is why people are afraid that there's an external influence. This hoisting of the Russian flag, that is the reason why they are now, some people are asking for coup d'etat.
Now, I was going to come to that, and that's when I begin to talk about shadow parties.
Yes.
Now, if you watched the videos of the protests, you would have seen they were very underage people who were participating there, even those who are waving the flag. I mean, they may not even know what they're waving. Now, but when the protesters now made a call for a military takeover, many people believed that it's the voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau.
Something more.
That there's more to it.
That made the ordinary eyes.
Now, and that is so an invitation for the military to take over.
Treason. Because we do know that the worst civilian government is by far better than the best military government. This is what public opinion says. It is widely believed that when you say a democratic government is bad, you can never attempt a comparison between such government and that of the military. We've witnessed a lot of military governments in Nigeria to know that we don't need them. We don't need them. However, when you begin to talk about underage persons I have a different view about it. Because even during elections in Nigeria, in the north, you see underage persons voting.
It's an aberration.
It's an aberration. But it does appear to me there's greater freedom, or it's a mere weapon, a strategy that they use.
It's been weaponized.
It's been weaponized. They use it to take power. They use it because a lot of people who may be older and wiser may know that what they are doing is wrong. Because it is not really right for you to begin to say that the president must come from my zone, the governor must come from my zone. You should be able to have certain criteria of determining suitability of those that will take positions of office in government, not just where somebody comes from. Because if where people come from had been have been very detrimental to the development and progress of Nigeria. Because now you see that, is it not surprising to you that if a country with over 200 million people, that somebody of the age of our president is president? Look at what is happening in civilized societies. In France, what is the age of Macron when he became president? Look at everything, even though you can say also that in America, this. But age had become an impediment. That is why Biden had now said he's not going to run. And there's a much younger person, which appeared to have invigorated the political machine of the Democratic Party in America, for instance. So there's a lot that is going wrong in our country. There's a need for reorientation. There's a need for a lot of people to know that united we stand, that there's no need for this unnecessary marginalization. A situation where, before our very eyes, we were told that they are zoning to power, where certain ethnic groups have taken and others that are supposed to have taken have not taken. That is part of the problem. Because when I was growing up in secondary school, I was taught in primary school that the Igbos of the Southeast is a major ethnic group in Nigeria. But when I look at it now, when I begin to analyze it, it does appear to me that through deliberate disruption, that some people are trying to make the Igbos appear minority. And that is exactly what it is. If you also remember that the number of states a particular zone has is also the indices that is used to allocate resources.
Well, like you keep saying, that's still a story for another day. But let me quickly take you to what looks like a threat to national security. The protest began. It appeared some people are hiding under the protest.
And making certain demands.
And one demand,
and instigating.
And one demand is by, quote unquote, faceless group. But nobody's faceless again in Nigeria, because with technology you can
always fish out.
Yes. Have called that the Igbo
should leave Lagos.
If that's not a threat to national security, I don't know what it is. But they are hiding under the banner of this protest to make that call. And that's why we said, what is the synergy between protest, democracy, and national security? So specifically, this call has been made. It's gone viral. The governor of Lagos State had come out openly to say, look, that's not who we are. Even President Tinubu in his address
speech
made a scathing comment about it.
Saying that the laws.
But let me tell you, my people say there's no smoke without fire. Certain things may be a warning signal, a warning shot that something in the offing is likely to come. Holistically, how do you look at this?
When we begin to get that kind of narrative, it shows that Nigeria is on the precipice. It shows that we are not where we are supposed to be as a people. I begin to wonder how our founding fathers will be feeling wherever they are when they see the state of our nation the way it is. It is sad, but something is very, very instructive and very heartwarming. The position or the statement of the president regarding that issue, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether it's cosmetic, whether he was being sincere, we want to say, give him kudos where he should get kudos. That was very good. That was well expected. Also, I want to thank the president, the governor of Lagos State, for dissociating himself, for saying that, the threat, the Igbo must exit Lagos. We are not part of it. It's not who we are. It is wrong, and we are not supporting it. But also, you have also noticed that the leadership of IPOB had come to say that nobody can inflict fear into their spines and make them to leave whatever part of Nigeria where they are. They have also said that they are indeed interested in leaving Nigeria through a referendum. Through a referendum. But one thing had become obvious. It was the kind of thing that Igbos saw where they lost millions and trillions of naira during the Abiola must go, Abiola, you know, that time Abiola
to rescue his mandate.
Yes, was asking that his mandate must be renewed, and Igbos were made to flee Lagos and losing their properties and losing their money, etc., because of the crisis of that era. It's not right, but those making this call are not faceless. They are known. Because in Nigeria, we've seen the leadership using different measurements for the same construct. When people from a particular group that are seen as nobodies, that are seen as if they are not part of the country, that's talking about the politics of exclusion, and they are treated differently. But when it comes to people from a particular geopolitical zone, you can see that even in the north, some young boys and some big citizens were dancing with the military people, with police officers, even on the vehicle, on an armored car, and so on, which would have been a no-go area. There was as if there was a dialogue. There's mutual understanding. It's not unlike what happens here, where there's
like they're doing esprit de corps.
Esprit de corps. But when it comes to the southeast, the south, it's like there's this mutual antagonism. There's hatred. There's suspicion.
Let's quickly run. Somebody said, look, he was expecting a proactive action from any of the governors of the southeast. And
in terms of?
I asked him, what do you mean? He said he was expecting that one governor from the southeast or the leader of the southeast governors would have taken a trip.
To where?
To Lagos. To meet with the governor of Lagos and said, look, thank you for what you've done, but I want you to know that will protect our people wherever they are.
Okay.
Do you say that there's a major flaw from the Southeast Governors Forum? Because people keep saying, this Southeast Governors Forum, what do they actually do? Used to come to Enugu and drink tea and go.
Well, it's not about coming to Enugu. After all, the chairman of the Southeast Governors.
No, but Enugu is the headquarters.
He's not the governor of Enugu.
No, the Enugu is the headquarters.
I know, but each of the governors.
They hardly go elsewhere. They come to Enugu. So they only come here to backslap and drink tea and go.
Don't you think that coming to Enugu may be as a result of the very
no, I'm saying that's the
good atmosphere?
Look,
I understand.
Like the headquarters of the ECOWAS in Nigeria.
Yes, I understand. Those people who think that way may have a good reason to think that way. It's not yet late. It's not yet late because our people says that the scorpion that have just stung is still there waiting. Yes, we might say that the protests have eased to a reasonable degree, but tensions are still there. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because there are a lot of unmet expectations. Good. So maybe it's a learning curve for these people. Some of these people are very new in government as governors, and they are learning. Because you see, the truth is that Nigeria had never been where it is today. Some of these governors may be doing this, doing that, but public opinion does not even give them kudos of what they are doing. It does not give them kudos about what they are doing. So that had been a major problem where we must know that they are learning, but I think it would have been more potent if one of them had gone to say.
Okay, I hold you on to that. Now, it would appear, or it would appear that there was an unwritten consensus by the Southeast, by Igbo, not to participate in the protest. There have been calls, and at least I know that in Enugu.
Black legs.
I know that, that in Enugu there were conversations before then.
Yes.
All the youth groups in Enugu say, look, our governor is doing well. We don't want to disrupt what he's doing by protest. But somebody said, for Igbos not to participate was also a protest.
Against Nigeria.
Against Nigeria.
As a nation.
He said, look, there was something flying.
It doesn't mean that Igbos do not believe there's bad governance.
Yes. But they said, this is a nation, a subnational, that have been subjected to all manner of indignities. Nobody protested. And of late, they point to, quote and unquote, the unawarded presidential election they thought they won. Nobody protested. And so asking them to protest, join the rest of Nigeria, they said no. So do you see that not protesting is also a very strong form of protest?
That's very correct. You know, the Igbos of the Southeast over the last few years have been doing the sitting at home on Mondays, which was a protest. But it's a different type of protest. You know, it's a protest showing that they are frustrated about the state of Nigeria, the future of Nigeria, where Nigeria was heading to, was unclear to them. They don't understand it. And that was what gave rise to the emergence of the Oyendu.
Okay, yeah.
You know, talking about Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu can be seen today as Nostradamus, the man who saw tomorrow. It doesn't matter the way people see it, but if you go back to play some of his tapes, you can
All
see
the predictions, all the
that
things
most
he said.
predictions, most things he said, he foresaw, he looked into the crystal ball and saw what was going to happen. And we must give it to him. How he was able to know is yet, I was expecting the governing government to do things differently that could now make him to look as if he was lying. But they've not been able. Everything he said is coming to pass. So the protests, the non-protest is a protest. I agree entirely with Dr. Ono, who said that it is not really that the Igbos are not part of the protest, or they're not complying, or they're not participating in this protest. Doesn't mean that they're against the protest, but it's a way of telling Nigeria as a country that we are not happy about the state of things, and that you have treated us differently, treated us in a manner that doesn't make us to think that we are part of you, that doesn't help to bring to fruition the no victor, no vanquished mantra from a former president of Nigeria, a former head of state, talking about Yakubu Gowon, who said so shortly after the end of the Civil War. So the way things are done, where in the Southeast we have only 5 states, whereas in some places there are 7 states. And now this afternoon I was even hearing about the need to bring more states from Edo, Kwara, and so for a new state. I don't know if they call it Edo State or whatever. These things are not really right. So Igbos, the Southeasterners are very unhappy the way they've been treated. We feel marginalized, we feel excluded, we feel emasculated. We feel that we've not been allowed a free playing ground to compete with fellow Nigerians. I also feel personally that if the Igbos had been properly integrated into the scheme of things, it doesn't matter who is the head of state. Because to start with, the Igbos want certain basic necessities of life to be in place. Most Igbos are not power drunk, so to say. They want a Nigeria that is healthy, there's power, there's freedom, there's safety, so that they can thrive, do their business. Because you know they're entrepreneurial in nature, they're business people. When you look at how many Igbos are in the Federal Civil Service, even in Igbo states, do they allow the issue of federal character to prevail, where our people are supposed to produce people from grade level 1 to 6, the junior staff, which is the catchment area? Can't you see situations where you go to certain places, you see names of Southwesterners, Northerners largely? So the point is that those who have been superintending over Nigeria have not been fair, and they need to look introspectively to say enough is enough. If we want a Nigeria that is going to be egalitarian, if we need a Nigeria that will be indissoluble, if we need a Nigeria that is going to be truly united, we need to begin this conversation of treating ourselves as members of the same entity, members of the same country, where there must be dialogue, sincere communication, where we must know that injury to one person, irrespective of the person's place of genealogy, is injury to all Nigerians.
Okay, I think I'm asking my last question. It may be double-barreled, it may be triple-barreled.
you know, you used to be my teacher. So questions that if it is triple-barreled, I'm not surprised.
Okay, we'll be able to dissect the protests, democracy, and of course, how they affect national security.
Yes.
And then we'll be able to look at all sides to the protest. But it's not enough to come to a program and just marshal all the negatives. What will you recommend to the government to avoid a future violent protest. Not protest, but at least a future violent protest. And then one, restore confidence in governance because it is gone. Two, ensure that there's an end to hunger. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe,
Job creation?
job creation. So what would be your advice? Because, of course, we must provide some coping mechanism. It's not enough to say they didn't do this right, they didn't get it. So what must they what must they do differently to ensure that we meet all these three things?
The current government, talking about the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led presidency, there's this need for a peaceful resolution to conflicts. There's also the need, Tinubu, quite frankly, had started implementing certain things because even though cost of living appeared to have erased the new minimum wage because of the delay and so on, there's been an increase of over 100% from 30 to 70.
Yeah.
You know, that's a way. But there's a need for dialogue. There's a need for understanding. There's a need for him to meet with stakeholders. After politicking, after election, there's a need for him to translate himself into a national leader, a patriotic leader, so that people do not continue to see him from the prison of his ethnic nationality. There's a need for him to begin to bring on board proper change agents, those who know how to turn stones into edible things. The widespread poverty is unseen in Nigeria. Which, if you go to a place to eat a plate of food, you'll be so shocked and surprised. I begin to wonder how students in Nigeria, how they are feeding today. This is the kind of thing, there's a need. And you see, Tinubu's government harped on agriculture as a mainstay, trying to move away from oil. This is good. But the insecurity, the threat to the lives of farmers, the insurgents' attack on farmers, the taking of lives of the people from different geopolitical zones had made the issue of agriculture a failure, a no-go area. If people lose their wives, lose their children, they also lose their own lives if they come to the farm and see cows eating what they have borrowed, taking loans to, to plow. So that is the problem. There's a need for government to keep promises. A major problem in Nigeria is a situation where those that have been appointed talk as if they are bigger than the country.
Maxwell,
as if they are bigger than the
I must thank you.
You understand?
I must thank you because our time is up. I must thank you very sincerely for being part of today's program.
Thank you very much.
You provided very good insight. I'm sure those who are watching us from where they're doing must have learned a few things. But so thank you very much for finding time to come, and we do hope when we invite you next time, you'll be here.
Thank you very much.
But from me, I think that one thing that the federal government must do, should do, and do very urgently, is to make the Dangote refinery to work.
I agree with you.
If it begins to work tomorrow, just tomorrow,
yes,
the price of fuel will come down.
No doubt.
If the price do come down, nobody will remember fuel subsidy.
That's true.
And that's where we leave you for today. It's a food for thought. Join us same time tomorrow for yet another interesting edition of Uncommon Conversations. Have a good evening.